So far, we've only seen 4 types of Substitution Jutsu in Shinobi Striker. For those unfamiliar, the Substitution Jutsu is your get out of jail card. You can use this by pressing the R2 button while you're taking damage. It will basically negate any damage done to you in the last hit that you took before pressing the button, replenishing your health and getting you out of a tough spot. In the world of Naruto, we've seen many techniques with this effect, so today we're looking at the 4 Substitution Jutsu that we have seen and have been confirmed in the game, and then we're exploring what else the developers could do. First of all, you have the basic substitution where you vanish and a log appears in your place. This is the basic concept of a substitution jutsu, because you substitute your own body with just some random log that's laying around. It's supposed to be nearby, even if you're not nearby any trees sometimes. So you heal back the last damage you took, the last hit that you took before pressing the button. You regain that health, and you will also reappear in a different location. I believe you can actually control where you reappear by pointing the thumbstick in the direction you want to move at the same time as pressing the R2 button. But that's something I need to spend a bit more time with the game to really confirm. I had that idea, I had that feeling while playing, but I'm not gonna confirm anything at this point. So that's it, you heal back the last hit, you reappear somewhere else, and then you can join back into the fight or just run away. Next, we get to some substitutions that are a little bit more interesting. We've seen Naruto during Gamescom using the Shadow Clone Jutsu as a sub. And what this does is essentially the same as your basic substitution, healing you and having you appear in a different location, but instead of a log showing up at your previous location, a clone that looks just like you will show up instead. And if an enemy is attacking you, they will actually stay locked on to the clone, so it can take a beginner a couple of seconds to realize they're no longer attacking the real player. And this seems to be straight up an advantage over the basic substitution. The only disadvantage that I can see at first glance is the distance that you cover when vanishing. With the basic substitution, it seems that you're able to vanish and appear further away from the position where you were being attacked, while with a shadow clone, the real player will usually vanish and show up pretty close to his initial spot. But at this point, this is still kind of speculation. Next, we have another clone jutsu that works exactly the same as the shadow clone jutsu, but has a different visual style, and that's the lightning clone used by Kakashi during Gamescom. Kakashi also vanishes and heals the last hit he took. He never really vanishes too far, but he always leaves a clone behind. And this clone will have electrical effects, especially when he vanishes. And again, this just seems to be a visual difference because as far as gameplay goes, it looks exactly the same as the shadow clone. And that leads me to believe that these shadow clone types of substitution might be exclusive to the attack type characters, which kind of makes sense. Otherwise, why would anyone ever choose a basic sub when this gives them such a clear gameplay advantage? But our last confirmed substitution jutsu might just prove my theory wrong, because during the second trailer for this game, there are a couple of frames where you can see Kisame's water clone exploding. Since we only have a couple of frames, it's hard to say whether or not this effect is the same as the other clone subs, or if it's just a basic sub with a different visual effect. In any case, the clone explosion doesn't seem to deal any damage to the other players, as the characters around it are not flinching when it explodes. It doesn't seem like they're hit by anything. And it's hard to say whether or not this water clone can be targeted by other players, since Konan is right next to the clone, so Kakashi and Sakura might just be aiming at Konan and not the clone. I don't know, it's hard to tell at this point, but the water clone seems to be a thing. And those are the 4 types of substitution jutsu we have confirmed so far, but what else could the developers do with this ability slot? Well, I'm glad you asked. No one asked anything, did they? Well, you could have a ton of different clones, obviously, stuff like paper clones or rock clones, and they would probably all work the same as the shadow clone does. But I want to dive deeper. I want some different gameplay mechanics, because essentially all we have right now is 2 different types of substitutions, but they have some visual differences. So more than just these aesthetic differences, I want to explore subs that could actually impact the game. Starting with the smoke clone. This would work like a smoke bomb. When you hit the sub button, a giant smoke cloud would appear. This smoke cloud would remove any lock-on that your enemy players might have and provide you with a safe escape route while enemies are blinded by the smoke. This would be great for range type characters who would constantly be looking to put some distance between themselves and the enemy so they can throw jutsu from far away. The sub could also have a mist variant where instead of smoke, heavy mist will show up, mimicking Zabuza's hidden mist jutsu. Next up, the Kamui. Not the way Kakashi uses it in the game, but the way Obito used it while he had the mask, while he was Toby. Attacks would just go through him, and that's what this sub would do. For a short period of time, your character would become immune to attacks. But this must come with a couple of disadvantages. One, while this is active, you cannot attack, obviously. And two, while this is active, I don't believe you should be able to move. And that's because this ability would be completely broken in game modes like Flag Battle. So with these two disadvantages, players would be able to, in time, learn to counter this ability. If they see you activate it, they can just time their abilities to hit you as the ability is running out. So you would also need to learn the proper timing on how to activate this thing and when it would be advantageous to do so. Next, the Sand Clone. And this would be different from the other clone techniques because if you activate it while the enemy is attacking you from melee range, their arms or legs, whatever they're using to attack, become stuck in the clone, leaving them immobilized and open for an attack. Now, obviously, it wouldn't be that useful against ranged attacks, but that's what Shinobi Striker is all about. It's about countering your enemy with jutsu that they can't defend against. And similar to that, we have our next substitution jutsu, the Clay Clone. This is Deidara's ability of creating a clone made out of clay. When you sub out, the clone itself would explode, and just like a flashbang, it would blind the enemy. You could also have the clone explode and deal damage, but I'm afraid that would break the game a little bit. After all, the substitution is meant to be a defensive ability, a get out of jail card. It's not meant to deal damage, otherwise we'd see Kisame's water clone explosion blast his enemies away. But having this jutsu work like a blinding flashbang, leaving the enemy disoriented for a little bit, already seems pretty powerful to me. Next, we already talked about this one on the channel in a previous video. It's the Izanagi, the Sharingan ability that allows one to change his own fate. Izanagi would be pretty similar to the basic substitution jutsu, except you'd be able to activate it after dying. Now, because this ability can basically revive you, the cooldown on it should be way bigger than the others. Or at least have a limited number of uses, like you can only use it twice during a match because you only have the two eyes, and Izanagi is supposed to draw the light out of your eyes after you use it. And hey, after you use it twice, maybe you lose the light in both eyes and you're playing with a black screen. Yeah, that's a dumb idea. Speaking of Sharingan, we have Itachi's favorite animal up next. It's the crow. This would be a genjutsu type of substitution where Itachi's body would turn to crows. Well, I say Itachi. You can probably learn it from Itachi and then your player can turn into crows. This wouldn't exactly be like the clay clone or the smoke bomb, which obstruct the vision of the players entirely, but it would obstruct their vision a little bit since the crows would be swarming the player. And also, because the players started trying to shove them away, the player would also be stunned for a little bit. So in a way, it's kind of a mix between the clay clone and the sand clone, which immobilizes an enemy, but it shouldn't be as powerful as either of them because it's using a mix of both. And finally, the last idea I have for today is the Snakeskin substitution. This is a unique substitution created by Orochimaru, in which he merges with a new body from a snake, making it seem like he's shedding an old snakeskin. The way this would work differently from other substitutions in the game would be the following. First, it works like the basic substitution jutsu, but visually there's the whole snake thing, and then since you are reborn in a new body, for a short period of time you may receive a buff, maybe a damage buff, maybe a speed buff, because your body is all fresh and new. And those are my ideas for new substitution jutsu in Naruto Boruto Shinobi Striker. I had 7 ideas in addition to the 4 ideas that had already been announced, and I passed the question off to you. Any other ideas for substitutions in the game? How would they work gameplay wise? Let me know your ideas in the comments down below. And a huge shout out to Lavar Svisic. Totally butchered their name for the video idea. Thanks a lot, dude. Last time we talked about some accessories we would like to see in the game, and this was my favorite addition to that list. You can watch the video right here, or if you're in the mood for something else, there's also the video at the bottom. But as always, thank you very much for watching. My name's Globq, and I'll see you guys next time. Boy.